Chris, tell me a little bit about yourself and, well, what your background in terms of how you specifically can help somebody to get the job of their dreams. I mean, of course, there are some brilliant people who can help others with certainly writing their CV and preparing for the interview, and of course that's important. From what you've said to me, I'm hearing it's also it's the emotional element, isn't it? It's that fear of, before you even get to considering how to write, how to think about your CV. I feel at the moment that people, we're working under such unusual conditions, and for those people who have been furloughed, of course, that's one issue. But for the people who are working, they've also got a massive workload at the moment. So it's like, how have I even got time to think about this? So will you be able to help with that side as well? So that people can actually just really think about it. I'm not putting it over to you very well.
No, I got it. I mean, the first thing that you asked, tell you a little bit about myself. I began my study of interpersonal and intrapersonal communication in 1976, and it's a study that's carried on ever since. It's still carrying on now, and in that time, I've learned from many different sources. I've worked as an educator in all forms of education. I've worked as a management trainer and business consultant for quite a number of years. And I've been involved in communication and influence as an absolute passion now for 40 plus years. And the principles that we need to understand about how to create influence so that other people come to the conclusion we want them to, which in the case of getting a job is to say, Lizzie, we're delighted to offer you the job. Those principles go far beyond just knowing how to structure a CV or how to structure a letter of application. They go far beyond that, because we're talking about when people apply for a job, my experience is, because they want the job and because it is an emotional experience, as you said, many people focus on themselves and explain to the would-be employer, the potential employer, why they want the job, what they want from the job, and of course they factor in why they'd be good at it. But it's written from the perspective of the applicant. Well, actually, the applicant isn't the decision maker. So just as we would do in other forms of communication, we need to understand the decision makers and the context within which they operate. And when we apply for a job, it isn't what I need to tell you, it's what you, the employer, need to read and hear and see about me and from me. So I need to understand how to match not just their corporate needs for a particular role, but also their communication needs and their values. So that these messages, because it's message sharing, not just information giving, and that's a really important point. Facts and figures on their own never are the primary drivers of decision making. There's plenty of research about this. As you mentioned earlier, this is an emotional game, like all games are. So I've got to manage my emotions, but I also need to influence your emotions if you're their employer, so that you feel good about employing me. I want to make it as easy as possible from the very first time we connect, which is when you probably see my CV, which is why I said earlier that knowing how to structure a CV, that's a basic, that's a gimme. It's like saying, I've got some experience, I've got some qualifications, so I'm bound to have a great chance when I apply for this job. No, it doesn't follow. If you've got the experience and all the qualifications, that allows you to play the getting a job game for this job. Doesn't give you an advantage over anybody else, because nearly everybody else who applies will have the similar experiences and or similar qualifications. It is a whole thing, isn't it? Like all communication and influence, it's emotional before it's rational. And the other point I'd make about CVs is too often people seem to think, I've got a great CV, I can send that off to with different applications. All communication is bespoke. Whether it's me communicating to you and you're representing a business and you're looking to employ somebody, or it's me and you having a conversation on the phone, or by email. All communication is bespoke, and great communication is based on at least one person understanding lots about the communication and outcome needs of the other, so they can match. So in the workshop, I'm teaching people how to match, pace, and lead through every stage of the getting a job game process, from writing the CV and the application through to being shortlisted, presenting and managing interviews, managing questions, and then getting away well, leaving the venue well, so that the employer sees that everything is joined up. Messages are repeated, reinforced, and developed, that you're managing impressions, that you good first impressions of yourself all the way through, because they happen several times. Actually, interestingly, in this is the first impression of the CV, is the first impression if you're shortlisted. Yeah. That we know how to connect all of these, so that at the end of it, the employers are emotionally driven. They are moved. It's emotion. It moves us. They're moved to go, this is easy, isn't it? We're going to offer Lizzie the job. My goodness, I hope she says yes. At which point, Lizzie is now in the best possible bargaining position she can be if there's a negotiation about salary or condition.
Okay. No, that's really, really, really interesting. Have you got, you've touched on a couple of sort of job types that you've helped before. From what you're saying to me, I'm assuming that you can help, anyone get any job because of the skills that you're able to teach. Am I right in thinking that? Am I right in assuming that?
Yes, I can't offer 100% guarantee, because none of us can do perfect in any context, of course. However, over the last 20 years, people keep coming back to me, individuals recommend me to people they know, because my success rate is obviously high enough to make it worth their while to employ me to help them with this. So yeah, in over 20 years, I've worked with people getting their first jobs, graduates. I've worked with senior executives in blue chip companies. I've worked with public health officials. I've worked with the private sector and the public sector in different guises at management levels and not. I've worked with people in education. I've worked with people who work in the legal systems. So yeah, absolutely, it goes wherever we need it to go, because the principles, the strategies, and the skills stay the same. There's just different audiences that we're seeking to influence according to the job and the industry in which that job exists.
Okay,